want to let our kids know that they need to be proud of both cultures, and you try to take the best from both cultures.
Yep. I completely, that's what we do with our boys too. Because sometimes, what we try to tell them is that I'm not like this nationalist, that everything that's Asian is so good, everything that's not Asian is evil. Right? I don't want to give them that impression. So you're right, I think that if we have lots of conversations with our kids about their identity, if we understand some of the Asian American story that we share with Japanese and Korean and Filipinos, and talk to our kids about it, I think little by little they'll feel the appreciation. The truth is that my sons, when they went to high school, they kind of said to me, Dad, all you're talking about Asian Americans, that's all yesterday. We don't deal with that. It's racist to talk about being Asian American now. I was like, what's going on? Because they're taught now that if you talk about your identity, you're racist. So, so I had to have a sit-down conversation with them and say, look, let's think about what you're learning here. So every now and then I had to have a conversation about that just to clarify, because it's strange. It's very, very strange that young people today think that you can't talk about your identity anymore. But okay, that's another one. Just reminding them. Anything else? Any other suggestions? I have another one. While your kids are young, tell them your story. Because one of the things that a lot of my peers growing up, their parents are always so busy working that they never sat down to talk to them about their story. Their story of migrating to this country, the hardship that they faced, the discrimination that sometimes that they experience. And if you don't tell your kids that, then they will grow up not aware that your story is very similar to theirs. Because they're going to grow up, and some of them are going to face the same kind of struggles. So find some time to talk to them about yourself. Any other suggestions? Frankly, I don't think Chinese food really helps, but that's a different issue. It helps you have the tools for communicating, but not necessarily for really appreciating your emotion. Not enough. Any other thoughts? How about your school district? Find out whether they actually offer language classes, culture, and history classes. I was very surprised that when I looked at my son's high school history curriculum, they have this big, thick book about advanced placement in U.S. history, and they devoted one paragraph to Chinese Americans with a chart. And I thought, I'm a historian, so I thought that after all these years that the U.S. history curriculum would have at least become a little bit more inclusive to include the story of the other minorities. But again, in the same book, the African American piece is just a little chapter, a few pages. Most of the stories are about the white guys, like Jefferson, Washington, Lincoln, right? So I would say that even though I appreciate that's part of the American story, one thing you can do as a parent is to find other parents to see if you can impact the curriculum. Can they teach something other than just this one? Can they teach something that gives you a better appreciation? Because in my understanding of U.S. history, it is the people who are not white who built this country. Because they were used as slaves, as cheap labor, to build the infrastructure of this country. So all the economic success was built on people like us. So I want to hear that part of the story, more than I want to hear about the white guys who live there. I mean, I still need to hear this stuff. They're also part of the country, so it's nuanced. But I do want to see some of us parents, sort of critiquing it. So can you do a better job? Any other suggestions? Okay, let's move on. Let's do maybe one more, then we can stop. Okay, there's the morals, right? The one about morals, doing right things like avoiding drugs. Let's see. You're worried about teaching wrong things. Okay. So identity and morals. Yeah, morals is even harder than the homosexuality issue because the bullying is a big issue, right? Because there is a lot of young people who just don't care. They think that they can say whatever they want and they bully your kids. So how do you maintain good values in the middle of that? Anyone have experience with that? How do you maintain your morals when all your friends are saying, let's go take drugs? What's your experience? Well, you never had that experience.
Kids are still young.
Oh, no, not with your kids. What about yourself? Did you ever have peers who were sort of bad people who were trying to make you do things? No? You all grew up with such good friends. Well, I didn't have any bad people either. I grew up with nobody who was telling me to take drugs. No one sold me drugs.
Maybe it's more like a smoking, like cigarettes,
Okay,
right?
like
So,
smoking.
and maybe it's family education.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, they don't smoke, and
Right.
very few people in my family, extended family, is smoking.
Right.
So I know it's not healthy and it's not right. Even my good friend, they smoke, I don't.
Right. So
Yeah,
you have to sort of hold it back.
Yes,
It's like drinking.
yeah.
Good. So teaching the values about what to avoid for your health is very important. There are some situations where it's almost impossible to avoid that. My youngest son was in some classes where most of the students were not really A students. And for that reason, my youngest son is really not a good student in the sense that he doesn't get A's. He just barely gets B's and C's. So therefore, they put him in classes where most of the students are the same level. And in those classes where you have the second tier students, that's where you have most of the moral problems. All the A students are always so good, they all come together, the teachers love them. So that's another good reason to have your kids do well, because they will always be in the best class where they have no temptation except to study. So my second son was in these classes where the students were very disrespectful, they wouldn't listen to the teacher, they would disrupt the class, and he was very frustrated because they were just not helping him learn. So what he had to do was basically find a few friends who were similar to himself and try to work with them and study with them. Then he would go to his youth group. The youth group was always a support for him. So he would have to create a structure around himself so that he could protect himself from the negative influence, the ones who smoke pot. Right? So he would have it to try his best, and as long as he has his wall of friends who are all living in the same agreement, then the other folks might come and try to bully them, but most of the time they won't. So they will stay together. So one of the most important skills I would think needs to be taught is the social skills, to find the right kind of friends to surround yourself with. And that should start very young. Help your child learn to socialize and identify the kinds of children that you would want them to be with. And then as parents, you can get connected with their parents and try to reinforce that and build a biggest fence with the parents also. So I would say that that's the best way, is to constantly build relationships with parents and find the kinds of kids you know are going to protect them. So practically, that's what Betty did very well. Any others thoughts about that? Yeah.
Yes, actually, I still want, because my question was posted in
Yeah.
Chinese,
Yeah.
and the only part of my question in English is homeschool.
Homeschool, okay, yes.
So I want to know
Okay.
your opinion, like a physical point of view,
Yeah.
how do you see this homeschooling?
It's a hard one because, first of all, Betty and I could not afford to homeschool. Both of us could not. We're not the super parents who could work full-time and homeschool at the same time. But secondly, we are not really personally very supportive of homeschool. We believe that our Christian value tells us to engage the public. So we want our kids, ourselves, as family members to also engage the public schools. The public schools are actually, they need people who are like us to help have a positive influence. So that's another reason why. So biblically, I would say that as long as you believe that the Bible teaches us to be missional, to engage the public, then it's a risk that we take to go out there because we can get hurt. But it's also a calling to help make the public a better place. So that comes out of that whole theological perspective. So having said that, it doesn't mean it's not good to homeschool, but I think that for many of us, that's what we can do that, we should do that. For some people, they may be living in a school district that's just so bad that they have to homeschool. And there are some parts of Oakland where I think you have to do that. But I would say that the majority of us who are living in places where we are safer, I think engaging with that, even though we have to deal those other issues.
Mhm.
Doing that also teaches us how to build that fence, and also evangelize to non-Christians, and reach out to people and try to build that joyful community. So that's my response to that. I'm not judging anyone who homeschools. I think it's okay, but I think that my personal view is that I would like to see more people going out there and engaging. Thank you. And then maybe we can conclude unless then anybody has any other discussion points. Okay, any other last words from you? Any final word? Okay, before I turn it over to you, Jamie, I'll just say one last thing. As I said at the beginning, this is just scratching the surface. I'm still learning. I want to be able to help support our parents as they raise their children to the best of my ability. So I hope that you will come to me and we can talk to each other and have a DJ and keep the conversation going. If there's any situation that requires more deeper conversation, let's just go ahead and talk to each other.